So put a Q in front of any content creation questions you have, whether it's about your podcast, your YouTube channel, planning content, whatever it has to do with content strategy, put them in the chat. But this today is a great example of how to repurpose a YouTube video into a podcast episode or vice versa. This is something that I have had many of my friends say, you're a master at this. How do you actually make this work? How do you make this happen? And it's practice. One, like first and foremost, it's practice. It's a lot of content, we're about to hit. So on the Potty Report, this is my daily podcast. If you have never heard me talk about it, I don't always bring it up. This is the Potty Report. You can check it out right here. But we're about to hit 500 episodes this week, which is crazy. And on the Proffitt Podcast, we just hit 334 episodes. And I think that I've uploaded about 300-ish I know I've done at least 200 episodes or 200 videos on my YouTube channel. It's a lot of content. It's a lot of content, but that has helped me understand how to best like rework all of my content strategies into one another. And what I mean by that is I don't just pull ideas out of thin air anymore. I typically will get them from the live streams, like what we're doing here. I will have great questions that come up in the chat, or I will have someone reach out on Instagram about a recent podcast episode, or someone in our Facebook group will ask a question, and that's where content will come from. And whenever I see a great opportunity, for example, today's topic, I was like, man, my YouTube audience would really get a lot out of this, as well as the podcast audience, because I'm not a fan of taking something that is audio only and then making it visual, like where you just put your podcast artwork up on YouTube. That is a way that you can get your YouTube channel started and get podcast content out there. But I'm a fan of taking something and applying it specifically to each platform, even if it's repurposed. Does that make sense? So I've taken the same concept and I've created individual pieces of content, one for YouTube and one for the podcast. So even though the type of the thing that I'm talking about, it overlaps 100%, but it's not the exact same piece of content. Does that make sense? Are y'all with me? Do y'all get this? Are you jiving with what I'm saying? Like, tell me in the chat that you're like, yep, I'm here. I'm with you. I get this, because I don't think that performance is the same. Like the content, like if you want it to perform across all different types of channels, you're going to have to cater it to each specific type of channel. That doesn't mean that you have to go and create 20 different things. It just means maybe you have to plan it out and then decide, okay, if I plan it out like this, I can use this portion of my outline and put it over here. Actually, I'm trying to think where I planned this. I think I did it. And I have to figure out, I wish my friend Mel was here. I recently got an iPad, okay? And I have not had an iPad. I've never had an iPad, actually. This is my first iPad. I don't have like, oh, I had a generation whatever, and now I've never had an iPad. And I am trying to figure out, I know that there's a way that I can connect this to StreamYard, and then that way you could see it like it's an extra screen. We did this last week and I totally messed everything up. So I'm not going to do it today where I join. If you want to go see the faux pas from last week's live stream, you can go see where I had the iPad connected and I was using it as a camera, and then I accidentally kicked everybody out and I ended the stream, and it was a whole ordeal. I didn't want to talk about it. Okay. I'm just, yeah, it was a bad deal, but I planned this episode. Where is it? I have this app. It's called Nebo. Never heard of it before I got this, but I started looking up. I have an iPad pencil. I was like, oh, what are some of the apps that I can use to make this work? And so what I did is it looks like just a regular document. But what's cool is and I'm going to turn you this way so you can see. I can write and it will show up. Super cool, right? Y'all, my handwriting is terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm spitting everywhere. It's so awful. But can you see where it shows that here, let me do it this way. So I can write and it'll show up. So you see how like the text converts right above it? It's pretty amazing because I love, if you've watched previous videos, previous trainings, you'll see I like normally have notebooks everywhere. So I like the idea that I can use a pen and I can write on it. All that to say, this is how I planned this content. I wrote down all the different ideas that I would use for the podcast and for the YouTube video. And I kind of separated them like, hey, you know, this, I can take portions of it here and I can put it as a podcast episode, and I could take this chunk and put it in the YouTube video, because I will typically have shorter YouTube videos than I do with the podcast. I like them to be quick, actionable, and I like it to be where if anybody stumbles upon my content, one, they'll know that I mean business and I just get straight to the point. I don't have a lot of fluffy extra stuff in my videos. I do introduce myself and say, hey, if you're trying to create content with confidence, or you're trying to be a content creator, whether that's podcast, YouTube, I do go into that whole spiel in my videos, but then I get like right into it and I do demonstrations. I do tutorial videos. This is the type of content I create. This isn't for everybody. Okay. Let me just throw that out there. This is not, if you're trying to like figure out like your jive with your content, you don't have to do things the way that I do. And I wish someone would have told me that whenever I first started following a lot of these people online. I thought, well, that's how they do it. That's the only way to do it. Or that's how I should do it. It's not true. It's not true. And there are no rules when it comes to content creation. Oh my gosh, I cannot say this enough. And this is something that I've said forever for podcasting. And that is, there's no rules. There's guidelines. Let's call them guidelines, little bunny ears. There's no rules. There are no rules. There, I said it. Do you need me to like shout it from the rooftops? There are no rules. There are suggestions. There are certain ways that maybe you can approach content. But if tomorrow I decided, you know what, I think I want to take my podcast and I want to start airing episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and they're going to be 15 minutes instead of 30 or 45 minutes. And then I think I want to have an interview every other episode. And then I want to like all of these things, the formatting changes that I would make, I could do all of that. No one's going to tell me no. I'm not going to get a slap on the wrist, but I just want to give you that permission that if you're looking for it, like, oh, I have to do it this certain way, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just you showing up and what's going to work best for you and your audience and how you want to